Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by TIE Software, the battle station for freight brokers. Your TMS should be viewed as a tool to help you execute at a high level in any freight market. With TIE, brokers gain access to a comprehensive platform that has rate intelligence and quoting history converged down to a single screen. TIE also equips your team with all the data they need to confidently negotiate pricing while also allowing them to communicate directly with both carriers and customers from a single command center. With most of your tasks automated through multiple integrations, your team can focus on making strategic decisions and not manual ones. Are you looking to revolutionize your brokerage by giving them a competitive advantage through automation? Visit www.tiesoftware.com/battlestation to learn more. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. All right, you guys, I got some guests that I'm going to bring up here in a second. But before we jump in, as I said yesterday, obviously, today is election day. Get out there and vote, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Don't wait. Get out there, get in, get early, get it done, and do what you need to do. All right. I don't care who you vote for. Just go out and vote. All right. It's literally one of the most important things you can do. Get your voice heard. But with that being said, you guys, like I said, I got some special guests here. Truck parking, paid parking, all of that has really come on the scenes here these last couple of years. And I can't think of a company that is branded out there more than these guys. Really, they, I've met the founder, here on the road. I've seen him at more conferences, and I see them post about being at more conferences than anybody. They're out there. They're putting in the work. And with that being said, I got my friends over at Truck Parking Club on the show here. I got Mr. Evan Shelley, and this guy needs no introduction, but Mr. Reed Loustalot, please advise himself, is on the show. So fellas, thank you guys so much for joining.
Thanks for having us, Chris.
And the backwards map to boot, to go on top of it with it. See, you guys, I'm not a technology company, all right? But this is how it works on my show, man. If it's not going to work, it's going to happen on this fucking podcast.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. We're just sending it, I'll let it be known though that mine was working, but it was an outdated map, but I only have the reverse of the new map. So we swapped it for the brand,
Dude, I love it. So Evan, I ran into you the last couple of weeks here out on the road, and you got the branding down. I always do orange shirt and hat. You are always fucking blazer and hat and going out there with that, man. But dude, what brought this to life, man? What brought this company up? What happened where you're like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to run with this?
Yeah. So my background, I was doing real estate deals, post-COVID, before COVID, and post-COVID, and started doing large-scale commercial land deals, and came across a deal that I put under contract that I was going to entitle for a warehouse. Long story short, I did not, and I was looking for different uses for the property, and started talking to some industrial brokers and investors, and I just kept hearing that truck parking was a great investment, and continue to look into it, and everyone's telling me there needs to be more of it built, and the demand continues to increase. And this is in 2021. Everything was kind of going crazy. So I went to the municipality and said, this property is zoned industrial. I want to do a truck parking development here. And the municipality said, no, we won't support it here, and we don't think any of the surrounding parcels will support it here, even though it's zoned industrial. And then that's kind of when the light bulb went off. Like, if there's a supply demand imbalance already, and then people like me are saying, I want to go buy, build, develop more, and municipalities are saying, we don't like this in our jurisdiction, what's really happening? And from there, over the next really 12 months, being a real estate guy, I thought I was going to go just buy, build, develop more because of the supply demand imbalance, and just kind of played that out. Obviously, 2021 was a hot real estate market with rates at zero, and really came across the marketplace model as a way to go in and help consolidate an industry and bring more awareness to truck parking availability, and then ultimately create more parking by leveraging existing space. So just a different way to go about being a part of the solution to the truck parking issue by leveraging technology and existing space.
Okay, I like it. And Reed, how'd you get your start in freight, man? I feel like, anybody who's been on social media here the last, was 12, 15 months or something like that, has seen you posting, the please advise and everything else. But like, what brought you into this industry, man?
I needed a job out of college, like most people. And in 2016, I took a job at Echo, doing carrier sales. So I did that for 5 years. Between Boston and Chicago, and then spent a little time at Trimble, a TMS company, then found myself without a job suddenly in 2022 and kind of did my own thing. That's when I started just doing my own thing, and I started selling hats, made some software, did a Discord community that's still going, and then met Evan that summer at the Freightwave show in 2020. That was 2023 when we met. And
yeah.
I don't know how many properties Truck Parking Club had at that point. It was probably like less than 50, if I had to guess. And I was like, who the heck is this guy running around in his suit in his van? Like, what's going on? We kind of got along really quickly, and we kind of just kept in touch and started working together a little bit on the side in, I guess, September of last year. And did that for 6 or 7 months, and I got a peek behind the curtain. I was like, these guys are onto something. This is a strong problem, strong solution, strong team. I'm in. So that was in April, and the rest is history. So yeah, that's all I've got to hear. That's the abridged version.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so how does this work? And then we'll talk into kind of like building the brand and everything, but like, are property owners coming to you, Evan, or are they, are you going to truck stops? How does this all work to where like somebody, they might have some space out there that they want to lease, they want to rent? What does this transaction look like? Because I feel like, obviously truck parking kind of came on the scene here, like I said, in the last, I'd say 3 to 4 years to probably be safe. It's been like really starting to gain some traction out there. But it's like there's a mix of sides here, right? Like there's the landowners, there's the business owners who are like, hey, I have this vacant spot. I need to turn revenue, because contrary to popular belief on the internet, you are in business to make money, not just to post a bunch of shit, right? So it's like people have these assets out there, and there's these growing problems that are going on ultimately, right? It was already out there in some legislation in the infrastructure act that was passed out there, the whatever money that it was, that, hey, we're going to invest at the state level and we are going to fix this problem. So the drivers out there that were saying that there's a lack of parking, they were heard, right? Like it got to the White House, it got passed, and we're talking like $1 trillion out there as well that is in this. But now that trickles down, right? Like now there's the small business owners that are out there in some of these locations, or there's the major chains that are out there. They're like, hey, we have these vacant spots. We need to turn a revenue, or we need to look at how can we maximize our investment out there. So how does this kind of work? What does this transaction look like?
Yeah. So I really, you know, when starting the company, really designed the app thinking about how some other great marketplaces did it, and really creating a self-service app that any property owner or driver, trucker, carrier, fleet manager, dispatcher can hop on. And on the property owner side, that they can hop on, they can onboard their property, they can add all relevant information, and then we can come in and help get the property approved and double check that everything is good. Ultimately, we built the app that way, and then what we've done is really created a marketing machine and a funnel that comes in, and we get a ton of inbound properties on a daily basis due to a lot of the levers that Reed and his team is pulling, and making it very easy for property owners, whether they're in the truck parking business, not in the truck parking business, a truck stop, make it very easy for them to find out about us, come to our platform, add their location, and then from there, someone will reach out to them and help finalize the onboarding. But making it quite simple, I think simplicity is what drives a lot of the things that we do, and ultimately just making it super easy for property owners to find us and sign up has really kind of been the broader thought. Obviously, you mentioned talking about uh, different parts of the solution like taxpayer funding for locations, which I
Yeah.
think there's just under $1 billion that it appears is going to get passed and allocated, which is going to be anywhere from 10 to 15,000 spaces probably that will be built. And I think most stats show that it's several 100,000 spaces needed for the truck parking shortage. Like one space for every 11 trucks is kind of the stat that's thrown around, which I think is probably pretty close to right.
Mhm.
So they're a part of the solution. Truck parking operators, so people that are buying, building, developing truck parking. So like truck stops are doing that. Truck parking operators that are in the business are doing that. And then there's us, where we're leveraging existing space, but we're also taking those truck parking operators and truck stops, putting them on a centralized platform and bringing more awareness. So making it easier for the driver to find parking, because it's not just driving around, right? It can be a dispatcher in an office that is trying to book for a driver. We're saving them 30 minutes looking for parking as well.
I gotcha. And then is there any, from a business owner's perspective, is there any additional requirements? Say I own a lot somewhere, it's paved, gated, whatever, the whole nine. Is there any special insurance requirements that I need to get out there as a business owner? Because again, people are going to, the more and more that this grows, and especially the more and more this is talked about at the federal level here, it's going to become a complete game changer out there for a lot of people who own this land. So like from a business perspective, from an insurance perspective, what do I need as a property owner to get on your guys' platform?
Yeah, the beautiful thing about our model is most of our locations, we have 935 locations as of
Okay.
right now, I believe. Most of our locations are already parking trucks in some manner. They're trucking companies, tow truck companies, truck repair shops, warehouses, 3PLs, any space that's suitable for truck parking, we can get them in the business of truck parking same day. They're parking trucks there already. 935 locations, and we rarely hear about there being compliance issues with
Okay.
insurance because they're already parking trucks on there. There's already trucks coming from everywhere that are parking on site. So we really don't have a lot of issues with that. It's quite rare when we hear about that. And then on the other side of it, we have truck parking operators and truck stops, and obviously their insurance is kind of covering anything they're doing there.
So, Reed, how do you filter through a lot of these properties, right? Like, because I'm sure, just like with anything, there's a lot of spam that comes through. There's a lot, there's probably some dude who's got a cornfield, fucking muddy, and he's like, all right, let's rent this out. So, like, how are you filtering through this to make sure that
Yeah.
the drivers who are going to be utilizing this service, like, it's going to be a legitimate piece of land that they're going to be able to
Yeah.
park?
Yeah. I mean, that's like the experience with drivers is like paramount. If one driver shows up for their first booking ever and it's a terrible experience,
Mhm.
then we lose them forever. And they're not, and we lose everyone they could have possibly told about us as well.
Yeah.
So that first experience is critical, and every single property onboarded has to be exactly what it says it is and accurately depicted so folks know what they're getting. We don't have requirements from like a oh, you need to have restrooms or you need to have a gate, because needs change, right? If you're dropping a trailer on a lot, like you might not need restrooms. So all that we ask in the vetting in the kind of draft listing process is that you're accurate about the amenities, you're accurate with your photos, you're accurate with your description, you're accurate with how drivers can get in and out of a property and all that stuff. And obviously we have requirements about like not being residential, yada, yada, that sort of stuff. And we've got a property team that thumbs up or thumbs down every single location, right? And they're dialed in at this point. They've done it 935 times, and their North Star is that driver experience, is accuracy, is ensuring that what you see is what you get, because that's really just core fundamental to the business, or else it just won't work. So we obsess over that kind of experience, and it just has to be that way. It can't be any other way.
So what are some of those instances that you guys have gone through as a business where you've learned like to build that system, right? Because you don't just get to 935 properties. Like you've clearly learned a lot in those beginning stages to probably filter out 90% of the BS that comes across your desk, right? It's the same thing that, I'm doing this show for as long as I have now. I'm very fortunate to have a lot of people who hit me up to want to come through, but like, I also know that there's a lot of people out there whose intent might not be perfect, right? So it's like, how do you filter through that? Like, what's that system that you've kind of built up to know, like, hey, this is going to be legit? And what are some of those instances that you've gone through where you're like, hey, this was kind of one of those pivotal things that we learned to make sure that, to Reed's point, if one driver has a bad experience, that has a negative whiplash effect that could go on for 10,000 potential bookings, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, the first probably 100, 150 locations, it was just learning. It was just taking in data, creating processes, taking in data, iterating processes. And I mean, to this day, like 935 locations, we're still iterating our onboarding process on a daily basis. We are making new iterations to make improvements to make it even better. I mean, we're dialed right now, but it's constant improvement. It's life, right? Like constantly improve processes, become better, do better. But the first 100, 150 properties was just like, you don't know, there's no playbook. You can't go to another company and kind of figure out how they're doing it. It was just us figuring it out. It's just putting in the work, like anything else in life, just putting in the work and taking notes and creating processes. And as we've continued to scale to 935, we've got very dialed in approval processes that our property team uses. And our at bat rate is quite high. We really don't onboard bad properties. We really can't, because if we do, we start getting bookings immediately at properties now. So we onboard a brand new property and it starts getting bookings in a few minutes or a few hours. So every single property that we onboard, it has to be dialed in. And we've made that part of our culture though. We're doing a training right now with our property team. We've got several people here in Chattanooga, and everyone on our property team understands the significant importance of onboarding great supply so that we make sure that every single trucker member that books at one of our locations has a great experience every time, because one bad experience, like you mentioned, can magnify quite drastically.
So what is it, man? Because like when you're out there and you're dealing with the drivers, right? Because it's like that's ultimately, you got to look at it as the property owner's your customer, but also, the driver who's actually, how do you take that feedback to heart to kind of really help that out, right? Because it's just like, as a freight broker, the revenue seems great until your drivers start showing up and they're like, hey man, there's like 18 potholes in the lot. The freight's never on time. Like, so how do you take that, kind of balance that out?
We want to take it? We make it, first of all, we make it very easy for us to receive feedback. We have a 24/7, 365 phone line, and it's staffed literally entirely by drivers. Evan's first hire was a woman named Tracy, who was one of the first customers, and she now runs our entire customer service team. And she was a driver for 30 years. She only hires drivers. Okay. So they all have experience and they understand what it takes to park, a 70-foot long vehicle. And so first, and they're very easy to get a hold of. We have a phone number, you can call it. I think generally in this industry, I'll take your warehouse example, Chris. when things go wrong at a warehouse, how often can you pick up the phone and immediately call somebody and get your problem solved one call? Like almost never.
Yeah.
And that's like the status quo in the industry. So I think people are not used to being able to call a customer service line and immediately talk to somebody who understands the issue and can help you right off the bat. So we that is a cornerstone of the business as well. So we make it easy to get feedback. What was the original question? I'm like,
no,
I was cooking there. What was the original question?
It's more like, how are you taking that driver feedback really assessing, is this something that's more viable, from the long-term perspective, right? Like as you're building your business, like, I mean, I deal with this frequently, right? Like I actually move freight, and it's like, we're out there, we're prospecting, and sometimes we're kind of like, dude, this could be a moneymaker. But then like when you actually stick your hands into it, you're like, this is kind of a nightmare of a situation.
Yeah, I think it's a cultural thing that I've just built from the beginning, where there's really no silos in the business.
Yeah.
So when customer care gets feedback, or we see a review that is unsatisfactory, we do everything we can to A, get with that member and get it resolved, but B, flow that information across the entire business to the tech team, to the property team, to where that situation is addressed and the processes within the business are iterated to make sure that never happens again. And just doing that 935 times essentially, it has really created what we have now. But I think it would all come down to, and I was actually just talking with another entrepreneur the other day, just removing silos in the business, and communication across different parts of the business, different teams in the business. Like I mentioned, customer care talking to property team, and customer care talking to our tech team, and making sure that these situations, whatever may happen, let's say a driver is trying to get booked in and they hit some type of random bug, or they hit daylight savings is a thing that happens with marketplaces quite commonly. Like getting those things addressed immediately by creating a culture of communication across different teams.
Okay. So building a brand, let's talk about this, because you're clearly leveraging the new school approach. Like obviously I'm like all in on social media, but I'm also all about like going out there and actually talking to people and actually being a part of the industry, and not just like sitting back and in doing that. So it's like, how are you leveraging, like giving your people a voice out there? Because I think it's really cool that you are, as a leader of your organization, Evan, you're empowering your people to go out there and like post, right? And it's not like, hey, we have this, again, back to the silo example, I want everything to be like this. Like, you're out there and you're responding to people on social media, you're doing that. So like from a marketing perspective, why is that so important to you guys as a company, Reed? Like getting out there and like really just like running with everybody being a kind of a face of the organization.
I think brands should have a point of view and should take a stand and have values and stuff like that. And so we try to message those as much as we can. And I think that comes through in the posts Evan does, what we do as a company on our social channels. It's about, but it's more than just socials. It's about like every single interaction that anyone in the business has with anybody, really. Like every call that comes into customer care, every property member we talk to during the draft process, like every single one of those is like a brand moment, if you will, right? So we have to, and because we are a business, like a marketplace business, where we need to be able to grow organically, like every single interaction is either increasing or decreasing the odds of somebody telling their friends about us, right? And drivers all know each other, properties tend to know each other, and we need them to tell their friends about us. And so every interaction has to be aimed at giving the warm and fuzzies, doing a good job, serving the customer, getting their problem solved, getting them parked safely, getting trucks parking on their lot, etc. All of these things are really what make up the brand, right? And it's not just about, as much as I love posting funny memes, that ain't all it takes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wish it did. then we'd be great. But yeah, I mean, it's just about every interaction, and then mimicking kind of that character of the company, letting that come through into the content, into the videos we shoot on the road, into the interaction, into the way the voice we have as a company online, etc. So it really starts with just like every interaction we have as a company, internally and externally, and then that kind of bubbles up to what we do, online.
How important is social media, do you guys think, to, business in transportation? Because it seems like there's two schools of thought, right? There's still that corporate branding that's out there by a lot of some of the legacy ones, but then there's also the new school of kind of content creators, or people who are out there who are like real business owners who are also leveraging social media to grow their business. So it's like, how are you kind of balancing that out right now?
I mean, I think because this is a newer business, like we don't have this kind of legacy brand, so we have the luxury of being able to make it up as we go. And Evan, I mean, this is a process that Evan started well before I joined the business, right? We've got 330 something thousand followers across all our channels, and so we've made investments in social media from the very beginning, from day one, and it's been incredibly powerful. I think with regard to other companies, it's like, it all has to be, I don't really like the word authentic because it's a buzzword in the social media world, but it's true. It's like, you need to be authentic to like who you actually are, because if it comes across as forced, then it's not going to work. It's not going to hit. So like companies that are more traditional shouldn't be like starting to, like, if it doesn't come to them naturally, like, don't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to figure out content. I don't think that doesn't mean they shouldn't do content, to be clear. Content is incredibly powerful. You know how it goes, Chris. You post stuff long enough, people start to read it, and then you go places and they feel like they understand you, right?
Yeah.
They feel like they have a relationship with you, etc. And that's all super powerful. It's insanely powerful. Everyone should do it. You just have to do it in the way that you can. And this applies for individuals and for businesses as well.
Yeah, I really think that, you're right, man. I hate the word authentic and authenticity. I think it's the most overplayed word that's out there, because people are actually afraid to be themselves, right? But I think like you need to have a brand identity, you need to have a mission, you need to have a purpose, and you got to stick with that, right? Like I learned from somebody very early in business who's very, very successful. They said ultimately 50% of the people aren't going to like you no matter what. So pay attention to the 50% that do, because they're the ones that are going to help you pay your bills, right? So it's like those people who are out there who are afraid to speak their mind, who are afraid to, be authentic, because that's one thing that I get all the time. They're like, how are you able to do that? I'm like, I am who I am, right? Like, and that's ultimately what it boils down to. If you don't want to listen, it's pretty simple. There's a lot of other podcasts that are out there that you can listen to. But if you want to tune in, if you want my unfiltered kind of opinion on things, like I'm going to give that to you ultimately, but it's not going to be malicious, right? Like I'm not looking to like cutting anybody down with my opinions on things, but I'm not going to hold back. If you ask me a question or my opinion, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to deliver that time and time again. But I think it takes a while to get your brand kind of up and running, but you need to keep that track record kind of like consistent across the board, right? Like one thing people are always like, how do you say fuck on your show? I'm like, I don't know. It's pretty easy. That's just who I am. And that's just the industry.
I'm proud I haven't said it yet, to be honest.
Yeah.
I normally say it like in the first sentence, but I haven't done it yet. So I'm proud of myself.
But dude, I just think people need to unapologetically just be themselves, and they got to stick with that. And what I think it's your intent ultimately behind it all. If your intent is pure, like if your intent is value driven, people overlook a lot of that stuff. But again, it's that forced authenticity. You can't be 70% you and everything, because like nobody's perfect, right? Like ultimately, who gives a shit? You're going to say something that somebody might not agree with. Oh, well, move on to the next thing. And I think like that's important as you balance out utilizing social media, utilizing this new world, because I mean, man, one post today, like it doesn't matter. Like you could have no engagement, boom, it could go viral. You have no other opportunity than right now to have that type of reach.
Yeah, no, that's a fact.
Yeah, I would just say from like my end on kind of like the leadership side of things is like, we just created a culture that's super direct, and like we don't ask people to be a certain type of way.
Mm-hmm.
we don't say this is the truck parking club brand, this is the way you need to be. We hire people exactly the way they are, and we don't ask them to do anything differently. It's our fault in hiring wrong if we have an issue with who they are after we bring them on. And so it's be who you are, and you reflect the values of the company before you even come on, right? This is pre-hire type of stuff. And everything past that, like what we're saying on this podcast, literally, we're probably going to be talking about similar things in 30 minutes as we're game planning on something. And that'll be internal conversations, but it's going to be the same across the board. Like Reed said very well a few minutes ago, it's like, we're the same people, whether it's private conversations between Reed and I on the phone or on a podcast. And I just like bring people on the team that already have like values that we align with. And as far as like personality types and things of that nature, like just be who you are. Like we don't care.
Hey, Chris, I know you've got a large broker audience. We have lots of brokers that use us, by the way.
You guys do?
I don't think people, we do. And I don't think people know this at all.
Really?
And right. And even is that a surprise to you? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, yes, because like I've been talking about that for a long time. Like this is something that as a owner of a brokerage, I want to offer to my drivers one day. I want to like find out, like, especially if I'm working with the same facilities, if there's a paid lot that's close by that has some better amenities. I don't know what you guys charge for parking, but it's like, I don't think an extra $20-$30 on a load to pay for that to make sure that my driver's in a safe and secure area for my customers' freight. I think that's a major value.
Yeah, I mean, we do a bunch. We do that. Brokers booking full drivers, either doing them are solid or there's a reason, like maybe they need a secured yard, etc. But beyond that, like they're using us for drop trailer programs because we do hourly, daily, weekly, and monthly bookings. And so if you have a trailer pool that you need that there's no room at the warehouse, like you can put it on our locations, and we already have people doing that. On top of what you just said of doing a driver a solid and booking of a spot, or you have requirements for a load and therefore you're going to park here because you can see all of the amenities, you can see all the security features, etc. So and to your point in your scenario, like is there situations where it makes sense for me to cover the cost of parking for a driver as a broker? 100%. If it's the difference between a driver taking a load and then not taking a load, I'm going to do it probably every single time. Yeah. And our goal, and I really bring kind of the broker perspective to this because Evan obviously wasn't a freight broker. Like I think we have a strong kind of North Star, or maybe like a sub star of like just making it really easy for third parties like brokers to cover the cost of parking for drivers in these situations. Because if it's hard, then they're not going to do it. Even if they want to do it and it's hard, they're not going to do it. But we want to make it really easy, and them fleets, etc., to cover the cost of parking, but also we want to make them aware that they can use us as a strategic resource for their business, to win business, to do things they couldn't otherwise do. So I just wanted to say that while we have the opportunity.
And they can find and book a spot in minutes. At any of our locations in minutes. Going to truckparkingclub.com. If they're having an issue finding parking in Newark, hop up to Newark on our map, look at our locations, decide on one based on the load, book it right then. On average, what is it? It's like, Reed, I wish we had Billy on the call. He would tell us the exact number, but it's like 90% of our bookings happen within 10 minutes of sign up or something like that. Crazy. So that just tells you how simple it is to use.
Very simple.
That's perfect. And we'll definitely have to have you guys back on at a later date, man. I appreciate what you guys are doing out there. I respect hustle ultimately when it boils down to it. And you guys are both out there doing your thing and building this up, man. But people need to go to truckparkingclub.com, hit them up. You guys, we'll be back tomorrow. We got another guest coming on. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Share that out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.